So for today's assignment, we're going to be discussing return on investment and more specifically how that applies to educational settings and instructional design. To begin, we're going to talk about the definition of return on investment specifically in the business world. So according to Fernando 2021, return on investment can be defined as a performance measure used to evaluate the efficiency or profitability of an investment or compare the efficiency of a number of different investments. My understanding from that definition was that it evaluates the outcomes of investments and it compares those returns to the cost of the investment. And by doing so, this analysis allows businesses to decide whether investments yielded appropriate outcomes, and based on those outcomes, whether or not similar investments or the same investment should transpire or continue in the future. Connecting this to education and even more specifically instructional design, I believe that return on investment can overlap with K through 12 and higher education through two very interconnected ways. The first of the two is through monetary decision making and allocating funds for programs by school leaders. And the second is by student achievement and growth and looking at that growth and knowledge of content through evaluation and reflection. So our first one that we are kind of diving into, the monetary decision-making and allocating funds, can connect with the return on instructional investment model, which according to Smith and Knapp 2019 is schools and educational leaders are able to evaluate instructional programs and allocate funds towards programs that best align with specific goals and pedagogy. The purpose of the instructional investment model is that it provides a tool to accurately and objectively measure effectiveness of investments. And some ways in which we can look at investments, what investments could be defined as in the educational world. I broke it down into classroom programs and technology. So some ways or some integrations of classroom programs could be things like RTI programs, the response to intervention, tiered classes and looking at one-on-one support and how that benefits students, and different electives that we can incorporate into school settings. On the flip side, we also have technology. So looking at different technologies that we can integrate, so things like laptops, iPads, and tablets, and then within those different technologies, looking at learning management systems and educational apps and how those LMSs and apps are being used, and if they are being used effectively and efficiently to progress forward. So this efficiency of the evaluative process maximizes outcomes for all stakeholders. That would include administrators, board members, educators, parents, students, and others. The second way that return on investment can connect to education is through evaluation models. And using those evaluation models can be applied in education to reflect on student understanding and growth in content knowledge. When educators use that understanding, schools can move forward with future instruction and guidance. And I have listed the different evaluation models that were given to us in the reading for this week, and I'm going to go into a little bit further detail with those 6 different models. So the first model that we have is CIPP, which is an acronym that stands for Context, Inputs, Process, and Product. Kind of going into a little bit more depth about that. So context, program context would be focusing on making decisions while planning, and then creating ideas for how those programs will be structured, implementing those ideas for the program, and assessing and reflecting on the outcome. The next one that we have is Rossi's 5-domain evaluation process. So the different evaluation systems for this one is the needs assessment, so looking at what is needed within the classroom, creating a theory based on those needs, implementing the assessment, looking at the impact of the cause and effect, and then deciding the level of efficiency. Next, we have Chen's model, which is where stakeholders determine how and why a program works. And TDE stands for theory-driven. Then we have Kirkpatrick's training evaluation. So with this specific evaluation model, it is less known in education as it focuses more on corporate training, but there are still valuable levels of outcome that could translate to the educational setting. So that would be reaction, learning, behavior, and results. And then our last two evaluation models that we have are Brinkerhoff's success case. So there are 5 steps to examine successful cases and compare how those interventions worked in order to implement throughout organization and educational settings. And then the last one that we have is Patton's utilization focused evaluation model. And with this model, it is a 9-step approach that emphasizes and places value on evaluations. So not only are we doing the evaluating, but then we are using that evaluation as you move forward. So I wanted to also include an example of return on investment through evaluation, and I chose the video that was also included in this week's module. So the title of this video is Evaluation in Instructional Design. The purpose behind this video was that at the school where the study was taking place, there were a large group of ESL learners, that is English as a secondary language, who were having difficulty in understanding English as a second language and then applying that as they move forward. So the goal with this study was to try to differentiate instruction in order to increase engagement. And the way that the leaders at the school did this was that they integrated content for both science and social studies. So they did a little cross-curricular examination. Then they set goals and outcomes by identifying specific learning standards that they were trying to target. They identified the method for learning, which was a problem-based method. So students were presented with a problem about turtles, and it was their goal to come up with a solution for this problem. And it allowed students to build on prior knowledge. So this lesson was great because students were able to take what they knew previously and apply it to this new lesson that they were working towards. At the end of this video, the school leaders reflected and evaluated on this process and yielded the results and used those results to help them move forward with continuing engaging students, ESL students, through instruction. So overall, there are a number of benefits of evaluation models in education, and there are a number of benefits of incorporating ROI, return on investment, within education as well. So evaluating is a very necessary process when it comes to instructional design. It allows stakeholders to make valuable judgments and decisions based on effectiveness of programs, products, and initiatives within educational settings. And then based on those judgments and the decisions moving forward, it really helps to improve performance overall. And that is both for the whole school and for individuals themselves, such as school leaders, teachers, and students. And here are my references. Thank you.